Are you keeping some super secret stuff in your database on your device? Then this video is for you because I'm going to show you how to encrypt your SQLite database in .NET MAUI. Now this video is a little bit different than the other ones I do where I start from a real file new Xamarin.Forms or .NET MAUI application. In this case, I already have some code prepared because in an earlier video that should pop up in your top right screen right now, I already showed you how to use the CRUD actions, so the create, read, update, delete actions in SQLite in Xamarin.Forms. But you know, .NET MAUI is now here, .NET MAUI is the future, so I wanted to show you this in .NET MAUI. And in fact, the code is exactly the same, but just to give you that familiar feel whenever you run this project in the sample code in the repository that is attached to this video, I wanted to do it in .NET MAUI. So, but it's maybe good to know that I just took the code from the Xamarin.Forms project, did file new .NET MAUI application, copied it all over, and it just worked. So how amazing is that? I'm going to show you this video in .NET MAUI, but I would highly recommend that you watch the other video, although it's in Xamarin.Forms first, so you know how to set up your SQLite database, how to implement the CRUD actions, how to do all of that stuff. The code that I'm starting with right now in a second here is based off that. I made minor improvements. I will highlight them in a little bit. And of course, we're going to implement how to encrypt your actual database here. So stay tuned. So here we are in Visual Studio 2022, the preview version at the time of recording. On the left, you can see the XAML that I'm using to build the UI that you can see on the right in the Android emulator. Of course, this also works on Windows, iOS, macOS, because that's the beauty of .NET MAUI. But for Android, I'm going to show you that today. So like I just mentioned, I imported all this code before, and you can see the buttons right here. So this teaches you the basics about CRUD with like an SQLite database. So what this does is we have this entry field here at the top where you can enter a name. So Gerald, and this little checkbox determines if you are subscribed to my channel, yes or no. Of course, it's not actually tied into the APIs of YouTube, so make extra sure that you have clicked that subscribe button down this video below. So I'm going to check this, then you can say add to database. It's going to be added to this list down here. And whenever I click one, you can update it. So I can click this one, I can say update and it updates it, or I can click this one and I can do delete. And here I have some get subscribed, get not subscribed to get some data out of the database that way. So this should teach you that. Now here you can see the code behind, so it's all wired up here, all the things, all the UI stuff. I didn't do MVVM for this one, I'm very sorry. Nice exercise for you at home. But this is all wired up for you automatically. Kind of like the important thing here is in the Solution Explorer, if we go to the database CS, so here we have the SQLite async connection. This is all provided by a NuGet package. We'll see that in a minute, which is called SQLite-net-PCL, which is created by Frank Kruger, maybe amongst others, but this is really wonderful and easy to work with inside of your project for years and years now with Xamarin.Forms and now with .NET MAUI. So, you know, this is kind of like a repository pattern, so we make sure that this database is initialized, we set up the connection, and we basically do that by providing a path to a database file. But like I said, I recommend watching the other videos to see how that's all set up. And then we have this kind of like helper methods here to get all the people, save a person, update a person, and here I'm showing off that you can just write queries by hand by using strings or do it through LINQ, which is very cool as well. So all kinds of stuff in here, which is very nice. Then in my app.xaml.cs, we have this little database reference so that I can reference it from everywhere inside of my application. And here you can say it creates a new database. It points to a path, which is on my local device. So I'm using some .NET APIs here to combine the path and get a specific folder on my device. Then I specify it with people.db3, and that will be my database file, and that will be created on the device. I also have a video on how to create, how to work with a pre-built database file that should pop up on your screen right now, or you can find it down in the video description below. But what you're here for is to see how to actually encrypt your database. Now, there's one thing that is kind of good to know, because whenever you're going to start out with this, you can technically migrate your non-encrypted database to an encrypted database. but that is not provided in the plugin that I just mentioned. So that would require you on the SQLite level. It can definitely be done, but that's not something that I'm going to show you today. If you want to do this, then it's good to know that on beforehand, before you're going to create the initial database, that it has to be encrypted. You need to set up the things that I'm going to show you before you're going to create the database for the first time, or come up with some migration path where you, inside of your application, throw out the unencrypted database first and then create the encrypted one in its place. So there's definitely options here, but that is something for you to consider. If you don't do that and just go to try and open the unencrypted database with the encrypted database bits, then it might throw an exception, it might throw errors, kind of like depending on the platform that you're on, but it's not going to be great. So that's just something that I wanted to tell you about. Now, let's go back here. It's actually relatively easy to switch this to an encrypted database, because what we want to do is go over to our Solution Explorer, right-click the solution or the project, doesn't really matter. Oh, I need to stop running for this, so let's do that. Go over to the Solution Explorer, right-click, and do Manage NuGet Packages. And then you can see installed here in the list, you can see that it has the sqlite-net-sqlcipher, the one that I just mentioned. So we're going to click that and we're going to uninstall it. Is he really going to uninstall it? Yes, he is. So boom, it's gone. Then we're going to go back to browse, and then we can say sqlite-net-sqlcipher. Now there's multiple providers for encrypting your database. sqlcipher is just very easy to use. There is a package for that, and this package is actually drop-in compatible with the other package that I just showed you. So you can just drop this in. It uses the exact same namespaces and everything, so you don't have to change anything. Just switch out this little thing right here. Now with that in place, what we can do is go back to my database, yes, at least in my case, depending on how you implemented it. And what you want to do is then say not just new SQLite async connection with the path, but what we want to do is create a new thing here for our options is new SQLite, and then we have the connection string, which has a couple of options. In one of which is the database path, definitely. So we still need to put that in there. Then we have to actually store date time as ticks. That is an option. So go out to the documentation, see if this option is something for you. I think you can safely set this to true. It's just some format, how it is stored in the SQLite database. You don't really have to worry about it. It will be serialized and deserialized for you, but it's still good to know what's going on. And then we have some other options, and one of them is the key. So the key can be a string or a byte array. I'm just going to choose a simple string, which is going to be password, and that's going to be the password for this database. That's what it's going to be encrypted with. So basically, now we have our SQLite connection string, which we can use to create an encrypted database. And instead of this database path here for the SQLite async connection, I can also provide it with this SQLite connection string. So let's put that in there. And now we suddenly are creating a encrypted database. So how cool is that? Now, there's still something good to know. The first thing I'm still going to do, like I said, I want to create a new database. So let's just do this encrypted. So it's going to create a new one here. And the other thing is there is kind of like a weird thing going on right now, where sqlcipher, I think, uses SQLite version 4 bits, but this SQLite other thing is still on version 3. So there's kind of like a discrepancy between the versions. And because of that, you have multiple options. I will link down below to the issue of the SQLite plugin where there's more information. But you can do two things: either migrate your SQLite database to version 4, which will fix it, or you can say, hey, I want this SQLite database to operate on the compatibility features for version 3, basically. And that's the option that I'm going to show you here. So if we go back to this SQLite connection string, what you can also set is here a couple of actions. So you can do the pre-key action or the post-key action, which is kind of like in the life cycle of whenever the database is initialized. You can hook into some things. So we're going to do the post-key action and here you can just insert some lambda expression. So we're going to set C, whoops, I want to open some things here, c.execute. So we're just going to execute a query basically whenever the database is opened. And we're going to say pragma cipher compatibility is 3. So now it keeps operating on compatibility version 3 basically, so that should fix the problems that you might have with different versions and things not working correctly. Again, for all the details, go to the link that I'll provide in the video description. Now, if I run this again, it's going to be a pretty boring demo because you won't see any difference on the outside, but suddenly now the database will be encrypted, which is really cool. It will just work the same way. Also, it's probably good to know that sqlcipher, there is also commercial packages for it available, which are faster. I think you can then also choose like how is it encrypted and all that kind of stuff. But for this, you can just, use the community license, which is free to use. You can do all this stuff and at least you have some security over your database. All right, our app is being deployed, so it should come up any second now. Come on, Android, you can do it, deploying, and our app is coming back up with a nice splash screen for .NET. And whenever we do, we're going to see the same interface that we just seen. So I can just now do Gerald again, click this little checkbox, add to database, and you can see that it all just works as before. So that is how you implement a encrypted database into your .NET MAUI or Xamarin.Forms application. Now, I already mentioned a couple of things throughout this video, like one, this is the free version of sqlcipher. There's also like more enterprise versions with more ways to encrypt your database, more priority support, all that kind of stuff. So definitely check that out as well. But for the community license, you still have this encrypted database. I think, the algorithm to do that is pretty strong. So you should be covered for most scenarios, but you definitely want to check out what more is there. As I already also mentioned, like this works for .NET MAUI. I'm showing you in .NET MAUI right now, but this exact same code also still works for Xamarin.Forms. So if you're working on Xamarin.Forms, then you can definitely implement this in the same way as well. Now, thank you so much again for watching one of my videos. Please click the like button so that it spreads to more people and more people can enjoy and have their data securely on the device. Please click that subscribe button so that you know that you're subscribed, and more of this amazing content basically will come to your feed automatically instead of you having to go search for it. Because admit it, you came here through Google, didn't you? Or did you are you subscribed already? Let me know down in the comments. And before you go, make sure to check out this playlist for more .NET MAUI goodness, and maybe this video right here that will show you the other video on the Xamarin.Forms SQLite CRUD actions. Or check out this little button if you're subscribed. Did I mention you should subscribe? See you next time.